My name's Matt Dawson. I'm 35 years old. I'm a mechanic, a husband, and a father. I live in a small town, the kind of place where you know everyone's name and, if you're lucky, you get to see your kids grow up in the same house you did. It's quiet here, routine. You wake up, work, come home. It's peaceful. Or it was, at least. It all started on a Thursday morning. Like any other day. I woke up, kissed my wife, Laura, goodbye, and went to work. She always made me coffee before I left, black, just the way I liked it. That morning, she seemed a little distant, but nothing out of the ordinary. She had been busy at her job as a nurse, and I figured she was just tired. But something wasn't right. When I came home that evening, I noticed her phone was lying face up on the kitchen counter, something she never did. Laura was a stickler about privacy. Her phone was always on her, or tucked away somewhere no one could get into it. But today, it was there, and the screen was lit up. I shouldn't have looked. I knew that. But curiosity got the best of me. I picked up the phone, and before I could stop myself, I saw it. A text message from a number I didn't recognize. I miss you. Can't wait to see you again. My heart stopped. My throat tightened. I wanted to believe it was nothing, just a mistake, maybe some spam message or a prank. But deep down I knew. I knew something was wrong. I put the phone back on the counter, trying to act like nothing had happened. Laura came in a few minutes later, greeted me with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. She was good at hiding things, but not that good. I could see it in the way she avoided looking at me, the way she shifted her weight from one foot to the other. She was nervous. We had dinner. Small talk. Nothing unusual. But my mind was racing. I had to know who that message was from, what it meant. I couldn't let it go. That night, as Laura slept beside me, I lay there awake, staring at the ceiling. The doubt, the uncertainty, it gnawed at me. I knew I had to find out the truth. But I didn't want to believe it. I couldn't. The next day, I made a decision. I wasn't going to confront her yet. I wasn't going to storm into the kitchen and demand answers. I needed to be sure. I needed to gather the facts, because once I knew the truth, I wouldn't be able to undo it. I wouldn't be able to look at her the same way. So, I started digging. I found out she'd been talking to a guy named Chris. They'd been texting for months. The messages weren't just flirtatious, they were intimate. More than I'd ever seen between us. He was a guy from her nursing job, someone I'd never met, but apparently they'd been working late, together more often than she let on. I was stunned, angry, but I didn't show it. I kept my cool. I had to keep my head on straight. I wasn't going to make any rash decisions. I wasn't going to confront her yet. Not until I had everything. I spent the next few days watching, observing. I followed her when she went out, keeping a safe distance. I didn't want to let her know I was onto her. I was patient, almost too patient. And then it happened. One afternoon, I followed her to the park. I didn't want to believe it, but I saw it with my own eyes. Laura met up with Chris. They hugged. They kissed. My heart shattered into a million pieces. I wanted to scream, to run up to them and tear them apart, but I didn't. I just watched. Watched as my wife, the woman I loved, betrayed me in broad daylight. I could feel the anger rising inside me. But I kept it in check. For now, at least. I had to be smart. I couldn't let my emotions control me. I had to make her feel what I was feeling. I had to make her understand the weight of what she'd done. That night, when she came home, she kissed me like nothing had changed. She didn't know I knew. She didn't know I'd seen everything. And that was my advantage. I waited. I didn't confront her. Not yet. Not until I had a plan. I didn't sleep much after that night at the park. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Laura in someone else's arms. Her smile, her laugh, things I thought belonged to me, shared with a stranger like I never existed. But I didn't lose control. Not then. You see, revenge isn't something you rush. It's something you build. Slowly. Piece by piece. Just like an engine. If one part's off, the whole thing rattles apart. So I spent the next few days pretending. I smiled. I brought her flowers. I cooked dinner. I even told her I loved her. I wanted her to feel safe, comfortable. I wanted her to lower her guard. Because I wasn't done watching her yet. I dug deeper. I found burner messages she thought were hidden. A second app. One of those encrypted ones. I cloned her phone. Every word she said to him came through my laptop. Every lie was time-stamped. I feel more alive with you. He doesn't get me. Soon. I promise. Soon. That one hit me the hardest. Soon. She was planning to leave me. But not just leave. She was going to clean me out. Sell the house, take what she could, start over. With him. With Chris. And she thought I wouldn't see it coming. I knew our finances better than she did. The passwords she thought she changed, I already had them. The email she opened in secret, forwarded to me the minute she created it. Every step she took, I was already 10 ahead. I copied everything. Bank transfers, drafted messages, even hotel bookings she had on hold. I didn't want justice. I didn't want an apology. I wanted silence. Consequence. Something permanent. I started making calls. Not to the police. Not to a lawyer. To her brother. Her closest friend. Her boss. Just planting seeds. Subtle ones. Hey, has Laura seemed off to you lately? She's been working a lot of extra shifts, huh? Strange charges on our joint card. Could be fraud. You haven't noticed anything weird, right? People started to watch her without even realizing they were doing it. And the best part? She had no idea her world was quietly cracking. I changed the security code on the garage. Locked the drawer where I kept all my tools. I didn't want her near anything sharp when the truth came out. She'd earned what was coming. And I was just getting started. One morning, I told her I was heading out of town for a job, an overnight gig upstate. She smiled, nodded, kissed me goodbye. I drove 10 miles, pulled off into a rest stop, and waited. 12 minutes after I left, Chris's car pulled into our driveway. She didn't waste a second. They stayed inside for an hour and 40 minutes. Then he left, smug and confident, like he'd stolen something and gotten away with it. And maybe he thought he had. But I wasn't gone. I watched the footage through a small camera I'd installed under the eaves of the garage. Crystal clear. Time-coded. Stored in 3 places. The next day, I printed out a few stills. Nothing graphic. Just enough to prove it. The front door. Their embrace. Her hand on his chest. I slid them into a plain white envelope. No note. No return address. And I mailed it. To Chris's wife. Yes, he had a wife. That's the part Laura didn't know. Chris wasn't just cheating with someone. He was cheating on someone too. And the moment she got those photos, I knew everything would start to collapse. Because now it wasn't just me watching them. It was her. And nothing burns faster than a secret exposed to someone with something to lose. You'd be surprised how quickly things unravel when you put just the right amount of pressure in just the right place. 2 days after I sent the envelope to Chris's wife, I saw the first crack. Laura was pacing in the kitchen when I got home from work. Not cooking. Not smiling. Her phone was in her hand, but she wasn't scrolling. She was staring at it like it had betrayed her too. She looked up when I walked in, forced a smile. Hey, she said. How was work? Quiet, I said. Like usual. I kissed her cheek and walked past, just as calm as ever. And she stood there, frozen, waiting for me to ask her what was wrong. I didn't. That night, I heard her arguing in the guest bathroom. Whisper yelling, hissing into the phone. I didn't need to press my ear to the door. I had the feed right on my laptop in the garage. Chris had been served divorce papers. Same day he got home from work. His wife didn't confront him. She didn't scream. She just called a lawyer. And then she called every mutual friend they had. Laura asked him if he'd told anyone about her. If he'd said her name. He hadn't. Not yet. But he was starting to panic. The thing about people like Chris is, they like control. Once it's gone, they spiral. The next morning, Laura was quiet. She left for work early, no coffee, no goodbye. She was unraveling. And I hadn't even touched her yet. That day, I started step 2. I called in a favor from a guy I helped years back, a tow truck driver with access to the City and Pound database. I gave him Chris's plate number. By noon, I had every place he parked in the last 3 months. One address stood out, a storage unit on the edge of town. Private access, paid in cash. I waited until nightfall, then drove out there, bolt cutters in hand. What I found inside that unit changed everything. There were 2 boxes labeled with Laura's name. Handwritten. Neat. Inside were notes. Photos. Receipts. Personal things. Evidence of something that had gone on far longer than I ever suspected. Letters from years back. A burner phone wrapped in a sock. Plane tickets dated over a year ago, long before I found that first message. It hadn't been months. It had been years. She didn't just stumble into this. She built it. She chose it. That's when something changed in me. I had been calm, patient, strategic. But this wasn't just betrayal. This was deliberate. This was planned. She hadn't slipped. She'd aimed. I took everything, loaded it into a black duffel bag, left nothing behind but an open box and a broken lock. That night, I made 2 more copies of the photos and letters. One, I sent to her work, anonymously, labeled HR, Conflict of Interest. I knew her hospital had a strict code of ethics. Relationships between staff weren't just frowned upon, they were fireable offenses. The other, I kept in my truck, just in case. When I got home, she was sitting on the edge of the bed, staring at the wall. "You okay?" I asked. She nodded too quickly. "Yeah. Just tired." "Tough day?" "Yeah," she whispered. She didn't look me in the eye. I sat beside her, handed her a glass of water. I was gentle, kind, like a husband should be. She sipped it with shaking hands, because she knew something was coming. She just didn't know when. And that was the best part. She wasn't afraid of me. She was afraid of the truth, and I was about to bury her in it. 3 days passed. Laura didn't sleep much. Neither did I, but for different reasons. She was waiting for the world to fall. I was watching it tip. It started with a meeting. One she didn't see coming. Her boss called her into HR just after lunch. Said someone had submitted an anonymous report with evidence of personal misconduct affecting workplace performance. The file was thick. I made sure of it. Emails, texts, pictures, and a summary letter signed, "A concerned observer." She came home early that day. Said nothing. She looked like a ghost, skin pale, hands trembling. She opened a bottle of wine without a word and drank it straight from the neck. I didn't ask what was wrong. I made her dinner, washed the dishes, let her sit in silence. It wasn't time to speak. Not yet. That night, I opened the drawer in my desk and pulled out the duffel bag, the one I'd taken from Chris's storage unit. I laid out the contents, one by one. The letters, the receipts, the photos, the plane tickets, every piece of proof that this wasn't just some mistake, that she'd built a second life and buried me in the foundation. The next day, I watched from the parking lot as she left the hospital, her badge clipped to a cardboard box, her face tight with panic. She'd been suspended, pending review. I didn't celebrate. I didn't smile. I just drove home. Later that night, she tried to act normal. Cooked pasta. Said it was nice having me around more lately. That we should take a trip soon. Just the two of us. She was desperate. Trying to reset the clock. Rewind the tape. I let her. I told her I'd think about it. That maybe we just needed a change of scenery. She smiled like she believed it. The next morning, Chris vanished. Literally. Phone disconnected. Social accounts deleted. One of his co-workers posted something cryptic online. He got what was coming. Should have stayed out of other people's homes. That's when I knew his wife had found more than I gave her. And she hadn't just filed for divorce. She'd scorched the earth. Laura tried to call him 3 times that day. No answer. By the 4th, the line didn't even ring. She smashed her phone against the sink. I didn't flinch. She screamed once. Sharp. Ugly. Like something wild tearing itself out from under her ribs. I waited a minute, then knocked on the door. You okay? Silence. Then, yeah. Just dropped something. Of course she did. That night, I found her crying on the couch, curled up like a child. No wine. No music. No pretending. And still, I said nothing, because she wasn't asking for forgiveness. She was mourning something that had died. Control. She wasn't in charge anymore. That was me. And the best part? She didn't even know how deep it went. Because the final blow wasn't hers to give. It was mine. By now, Laura had stopped asking how my day was. She moved like someone bracing for impact. She'd stare out the window for minutes at a time, as if waiting for someone to show up and drag her secrets into the street. She barely ate, stopped texting, barely slept. But still, she hadn't confessed. And that made everything worse. Because it meant she still believed she could survive this. Fix it. Spin it. Patch it back together. But what she didn't know was that I'd already spoken to a lawyer. I didn't file anything. Not yet. Instead, I had them draft a package. Neatly organized. Labeled tabs. Printed on firm, clean paper. Inside, all the text messages between her and Chris. The travel documents. The financial transfers. And a formal statement of intent to dissolve our marriage, citing misconduct. I didn't mail it to her. I mailed it to her parents. They lived an hour north, retired, conservative, proud. Old school values. They adored me. Thought Laura had married a steady, honorable man. And for a long time, she had. They got the envelope on a Thursday. She got the phone call on Friday. I came home that night to find her sitting in the dark, lights off, staring at the floor like it had betrayed her, too. Her phone was on speaker. Her father's voice echoed through the room. You lied to him. You lied to us. We didn't raise you to live like this. Click. She didn't cry. She just looked up at me, like maybe I'd say something. Offer her a way out. A second chance. I said nothing. I walked past her, grabbed a drink, and sat down in the living room like nothing had changed. Because for me, nothing had. The damage was already done. The fall already in motion. The next morning, I left early. Drove to the bank. Separated our accounts. Froze the card she didn't know I'd duplicated. I stopped by the real estate office. Filed intent to sell the house. I had the paperwork ready. She didn't need to sign, not yet. But soon. That evening, I handed her a manila envelope over dinner. She stared at it like it might explode. "What's this?" she asked. "My goodbye," I said. "In print." She opened it. Her hand shook the whole time. Eyes scanning the pages. The evidence. The statement. The breakdown. This isn't fair," she said, voice cracking. "I know," I replied. "You should have thought about that 2 years ago." She stood, backed away from the table like I was a stranger. And maybe I was. Because the man she cheated on? He died the day she kissed someone else. This man? He was done talking. She packed a bag that night. No screaming. No pleading. Just clothes and silence. I didn't stop her. I didn't follow. I just watched as she walked out the door. And when it clicked shut behind her, I smiled. Not because it was over, but because now, finally, I was free. Laura was gone, but not far enough. She moved in with a friend 2 towns over. Someone from her nursing school days. I knew because she tried to have a box of her things delivered and accidentally sent it to our house instead. It sat on the porch for 3 days before I dropped it off at the thrift store. She didn't come looking. But a week later, I got a message. Not a call. Not a knock. Just a voicemail. "Matt, I know I don't deserve to ask for anything. But I'm sorry. I didn't think I'd lose everything. Please, can we talk?" I didn't return it. Because by then, she had nothing left to say. Her job was gone. Her license was under review. The medical board had gotten a tip, one with attachments, timestamps, and an affidavit from a coworker she'd lied to. Not from me. Not directly. But I knew where to send the pieces. I always had. Word spread around town. Quiet but certain. About how she cheated. How she got suspended. How she left in the middle of the night with no explanation and no ring on her finger. Her reputation? Gone. Her savings? Burned through. Her side of the story? No one wanted to hear it. And Chris? He'd disappeared. Word was he moved west. His wife got the house. The car. Full custody. Everything. Laura didn't even have a lawyer anymore. Just a P.O. box and a folder full of regrets. Then, one morning, I saw her. She was parked across from the shop I worked at. In an old car that wasn't hers. Hair pulled back. No makeup. Pale. Thin. She looked like a memory of herself. She didn't come inside. Just watched. I walked outside. Lit a cigarette. Stared at her through the smoke. She rolled the window down. Said nothing. I walked up to her, slow. Calm. Just like always. She opened her mouth to speak. I raised my hand. Stopped her cold. No. Just that. One word. Nothing else. Because there was nothing left to say. She looked down. Hands trembling. Jaw tight. But she didn't argue. She just nodded. And then she drove away. I stood there until the car disappeared down Main Street. Then I went back to work. Changed the oil on a Dodge. Tuned up a Chevy. Drank coffee that tasted better than it had in months. And when I got home that night, the silence wasn't heavy anymore. It was clean. Simple. Mine. I didn't check for more messages. I didn't think about where she was. Because I'd already buried that life. She just hadn't figured out how to stop digging.